Well, Kevin Gausman was scheduled to pitch 162 if they didn't clinch. So they didn't. So instead, they went to Wes Parsons, who hasn't pitched in the major leagues since 2019. This is a guy who's pitching in South Korea. Oh, really? But anyway, the Jays afforded themselves that luxury. It's crazy saying that, considering how late it came for them to clinch a wild card spot. But listen, if you had to burn Gausman in the final game of the season, he's definitely not going to start the first game. But he hasn't played. And I've seen some conversation around who should start for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I feel like there shouldn't really be a conversation. You got to win 2 out of 3. You got to go with your best guy. Who's been the best guy this season? It's been Kevin Gausman. Bassett's been excellent. Don't get me wrong. The most wins. I think tied for the most wins in the AL. 16 wins. Then you have Kikuchi's been good. Barrios has been good. But you got to go with your number one guy. I just feel like there should be no conversation around who should start that first game against Minnesota.
Do they start Barrios in a potential winner-take-all Game 3 in Minnesota, the ballpark he used to pitch at? That's.
Well, I think that's the real conversation.
That's a very interesting storyline going ahead to this.
But
series.
Also depends on the result of Game 1, right, Sean? Yeah. If they win, they lose.
Yeah,
who are you going to go with?
I feel like you could change your strategy based off that. We won't know until 10 a.m. tomorrow the rosters for the series, and then even then you won't know who's going to pitch Game 2 until Game 1's over, right? They don't have to commit to anything until like 2 hours before the game starts. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't want putting anybody in a Game 3 do or die situation is not ideal. I mean, obviously you would want to have Kevin Gausman in that spot too, but that's unrealistic. Kevin Gausman should be, without a doubt, I agree with you, the starter for Game 1. If you're putting anybody else out there, I don't understand. This is not the best logic. And then I think Barrios Game 2, Bassett Game 3 makes the most sense to me. I mean, Yusei Kikuchi can be used out of the bullpen if you really need him in one of those games, or just as a lefty, right? But I don't know. Yeah, you can't start anybody but Gausman in Game 1.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that he's been your lead horse in this stable of pitchers all season. So
nice, I like that.
You like that one? That was a good one, right?
Lead horse,
stable of pitchers. Yeah, buddy. Yes, Kevin Gausman's the Pony Express of the Blue Jays stable, but also comes down to the bats too. Like we know, this team has had so many problems driving runs in when runners in scoring position.
Oh, it's been brutal.
It's been horrible. And in the playoffs, we know that chicks normally dig the long ball, but in the playoffs dig the small ball. Right, so you're gonna have to play small ball to win the playoffs.
I don't know if that's the case. I had the Zoobs on the Homestand Sports podcast a couple weeks ago, and I was going through the past, I think 4 or 5 World Series postseason stats in terms of home runs. The teams that ended up being in the finals in the World Series are the top 1, 2, and 3 home run hitting teams. Well, so a lot of it is, and Brandon Belt touched on this as well. So did Chris Bassett. Pitching and defense is huge, but maybe one of the most important things is timely hitting.
And the Jays haven't had that a whole lot.
They haven't really had that this season, Sean. I mean, and they're going up against a pretty tough staff here, at least the top 2, right? Pablo Lopez and Sonny Gray. A couple guys who may, at least one of them may get some Cy Young votes.
Yeah, I've been, again, not to beat a dead horse since we're talking about horses.
We do not condone animal violence, by the way.
No, we don't. But, yeah, no, I think this team all season, and that's why, again, the path to the World Series will be very difficult, is just you never know what you're going to get night in and night out. What you're probably going to get is fantastic starting pitching, is just the numbers are there, but you don't know what you're going to get from that lineup. I mean, some nights, you know what I mean? Like you've got Vladdy and Bo hitting the cover off the ball. Some nights they're, swinging at pitches 2 feet outside the zone. Davis Schneider was hot for a bit, then he wasn't. Matt Chapman was hot in April. Now he's one of the worst hitters in baseball. Whit Merrifield also struggling right now. You don't know what you're getting from this lineup. Dalton Varsho hitting very well right now. But again, he could turn back into a pumpkin. You never know, man. I don't see the consistency out of this lineup that really makes me feel good. I feel uneasy. I feel uneasy against any starting pitching staff, let alone a starting pitching staff that has better numbers than the Jays do.
And a good bullpen.
And a good bullpen.
Hell of the closer, Johan Duran.
Yeah.
Guy hits 105 on the dome.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's just in this series, to me, it's either like you're going to have to hope that one pitcher blows up, and that works out to the Jays' advantage, or you're going to have to hope that your bats can string some things together. Because I think the problem for both teams is the inconsistency is in their lineups. A lot of the Twins haven't been hitting very well, dealing with injuries as well throughout the season. So I don't know. It's I just feel
the Chapman conversation is an interesting one too, because you want his glove at third base.
Yeah.
But if you look at his numbers, go back to August 1st, he's hitting under 200. That's horrible.
This is the guy at the end of the season we're talking about. This guy's having a career-altering year.
Well, his April was MVP level. His OPS is over 1,000.
It was.
That's a callback.
Things change. Yeah, it is. And then you have a guy like David Schneider who was hot. He's not so hot, but maybe you want his power off of the bench. I guess thank God for Kevin Biggio and his turn.
He learned how to play baseball finally.
Well, he can play anywhere.
Yeah.
He learned how to play baseball. He can hit the ball. He can do everything that he possibly can.